Welcome to United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America on WSGW. Now, here is your host, Kareem Bowen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America. I am your host, Kareem Bowen, and I am in the studio with the producer of this wonderful show, who has been rocking with me, rocking and rolling around the Christmas tree. John B. What's going on, John?
Hello.
Rocking around the Christmas tree at the Christmas party hop. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right. I wasn't sure. I always hear the songs, but I never knew if I knew the words or not. All right. So we're going to get going with today's show. We got Mark Bassett. He's not in the studio, but unfortunately he's not on a bird either. He's taking care of business, but he's doing it from home. Mark, what's good with you, my man?
Glad to be back in town. I wish I could have been there, but I have a full schedule today.
I was going to sing your own personal song, Taking Care of Business. All right. So it is today that we're recording is the 14th. Are you guys feeling like it's Christmas time yet? I don't, and I don't feel like a Grinch. I'm not a Grinch this year, even though I was a few years ago. I'm excited about Christmas, I guess, but it doesn't feel like Christmas.
Well, I've been in the Christmas mode for a few weeks, as you probably know. The audience may know. You can see the room I'm in. This is the nativity room. So I've been decorating the house. So I'm a big Christmas person. So yes, it feels like Christmas.
So we're gonna talk about the nativity room, and hopefully, Mark, you can get us a little closer to some of the things that are in there. Right. Let us know what's going on. For all of those who are listeners, Mark spent some time in Chicago. For those of you at WJOL, he was down in Chicago for the Christmas Aglow 2022, and he found some Christmas treasures, and he's bringing those things back for his what is now becoming his renowned Bassett holiday party. And he's got a whole a line of guests that are coming up. It's going to be taking place on the same day that this is airing. Is it the 16th? 18th, on the 18th of December. So we're going to take a little bit of time. John, were you going to say something? Because I felt like you were getting ready to say something.
I was in the Christmas spirit. I was there over the weekend, all last week. This week I haven't seen the sun in 5 days or something like that. It's been cloudy and gray and nasty, and it's taken a toll. I'm getting into the humbug.
I mean, that's that's Christmas. That's winter in the Midwest.
Yeah,
though.
but we're not
You
even
need to
getting
take some
snow.
vitamin D or get one of those special lamps.
I think that's what
you
going
need,
on.
Jonathan.
Yeah,
We're gonna come in one day, and Jonathan is gonna have his little vitamin D lamp with his feet up, and he's just gonna be sitting there getting some rays.
I need it.
I cannot wait. Good afternoon to you as well, Rebecca Garth Townsend. You were the first one in our social media. Well, maybe not number one, but the first one that left a comment in our social media stream. So we certainly thank you for tuning in. Mark, let's get to the good stuff you got going on behind you. Once again, for everybody that listens, Mark is Mr. Christmas himself. He's even dressed for the occasion. If you notice, he's got the Christmas sweater on. But Mark, this is, as you termed it earlier, your nativity room. Share with us.
It is, yeah. Normally it's Mary's office. Unfortunately, I'm on a desktop, so I can't move around too much. But she's got two tables in here. One I'm using right now. The one behind me is a work table. As you can see, it's decorated. It's full of different nativity scenes. I'll get my head out of the way. A number of them light up. Some of them are also music boxes. There's a credenza you can kind of see right there, which is also filled with nativity scenes. Unfortunately, there's some glare. I could probably close the drapes, but there's a huge, it's probably 6 feet by 4 feet print from the 50s of a nativity scene. I'll try to close the drapes.
Mark, what I think is really interesting, and I want people to take note. Perfect. The lighting went perfect there. What I think is really cool is it's not just the nativity scenes. It's not that you have gone crazy, man, with the nativity scenes everywhere. But I want those who are able to see via the social media stream. Look at the walls. The artwork on the walls has changed. I mean,
yes, it is. It's all flipped.
Everything is flipped. So
everything is flipped. It took me a couple of weeks probably because I was starting from scratch. I'm retired, so I have more free time. I was starting from scratch. I spent more time kind of thinking about how I wanted to display it and organize it. I went with much more of a theme kind of thing versus, hey, this just happens to fit here. And so it took me a little bit longer than normal. Normally, it'll probably take me about a week to put it all back up. There's a bookshelf over here. I won't be able to get to it, but it's filled with nativity scenes as well.
So everything in this particular room, Mark, is a part of a nativity scene.
For the most part, there's a few supporting pieces, like you can see on the wall, a big red candle. That's a big red candle. It says Noel on it. You can see this little angel over here over my shoulder. But yeah, for the most part, it's a nativity themed room. I have a wall on the top of the second floor, which is all wall art of nativity scenes, basically. So I have another wall. It's just Rudolph stuff. Another wall. It's just Santa stuff.
So Mark, is this throughout your entire home?
Not the entire home. It's 3 out of the 4 stories is totally flipped.
So is this everything except the basement, or is this everything?
Everything but the 3rd floor, which is just upstairs. Basically 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. So the basement's flipped. You'll get to see it as soon as you make it. I don't know if Jonathan's coming or not, but it's almost like I've actually toyed with the idea of making it into a bit of a museum and letting people kind of come in and view it. I think people like in their 40s and on, I've been looking for, there are Black Santas out there. I'd love one.
Mark, she says she's going to bring a Black Santa.
All right, cool.
Watch out, Midland. Here it comes.
Yeah. There are a lot of people, they love it because they'll go like, hey, my grandmother, I remember my grandmother had that, or my mom had that, or my aunt had that. And so it brings me a lot of joy because I love Christmas. But when people see it, it brings them joy as well, a lot of people. And so that brings me joy, gives me joy as well.
Mark, there's a word that's stuck in my head, and I don't know if this is a real word or not, but you let me know. For some reason, I had the thought that I was speaking with one of your former coworkers, and they said that you have, and the word that's coming to mind are tchotchkes. Is that a real word? Is that it?
Tchotchkes are, yeah, I have a lot of tchotchkes. This is a real thing. Okay. Yeah.
Now, what's the tchotchke?
It's like a little trinket. It's a kitschy knick-knack, a trinket, kitschy. A lot of kitschy is another word where it's kind of a little bit strange, a little bit odd, but it's kind of fun as well. So
okay. All right, yeah. So I think it was Brooke that was like, I went and I saw these tchotchkes, and Mark has that my great grandmother used, and it reminded me. So when you say that is something that, wow, okay. Well, hey, grandmas have a way of collecting and carrying history. And Mark, I guess as you get older and more retired, you're becoming a grandma. So I
am a grandpa.
Hey, all you got to do is change your pronouns. You can be whatever you want to be these days. But we're certainly, I'm thankful for that. And Mark, I'm glad that you were able to do it from home, so we get to see that. I'm excited to see you on Sunday, and we're going to try to bring this producer guy in. He told us that he's got so many plans and so much to do that he may not have time to hang out with us, Mark, but we're going to see if we can influence him a little bit.
All right. Well, there's a lot of free food here. You're free to bring friends, Jonathan. So it's just not just you here all alone with a bunch of old people. So
family from out of state's coming in. So
the old family from out of the state. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best excuse. Hey, Mark, that's one we've ever used, right?
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. So I wonder how many people for the holiday are going to be using that. I would love to come to your holiday, but I got family coming in from out of state.
Great. Yeah. It's a very useful one.
All right, let's get into today's show. Today we're going to be talking about finding our purpose, or finding purpose in life is probably a better way to say it. But as we always do, we talk about what's hot off the press before we get into those things. We want to give a shout out to those who are listening, both here at WSGW 100.5 FM and 790 AM, as well as those that are listening, our listening audience in Joliet, Illinois at WJOL. We welcome you. Well, today at 2 p.m., this is today, Wednesday, the 14th, we are having, the semifinals of the FIFA World Cup championships. I'm excited about it. I'm probably only going to be able to catch the very beginning because soccer matches are like, is it a soccer match or a soccer game? What is it?
I think it's a match.
Is it a match?
I think it is, but I don't think I've ever watched an entire soccer game or match or whatever.
Okay, we'll call it this. football games.
Yeah.
So football games are kind of like a whole day long journey. It starts at one time and it ends, I guess, when someone gets tired of reffing and then they just call the game, and whether they've scored or not, it's over. It's a tie, it's a draw. But it's interesting. Why do you think the U.S. is not really pulled into the crave and the craze of European football?
Well, soccer is not a popular sport here, really.
I mean, but why do you think we didn't? Why not?
Because it's a boring sport, to be honest. In my personal opinion, it's really boring. You spend 99% of the game where there's literally no opportunity to score.
But golf.
But American football.
No.
I
guess
half of the game is them setting up a play, and then there's a play for all of 6 to 10 seconds, and then it stops and we go back to.
But you get to see people get cracked. You hear the crack in the stands when someone gets a good hit. You see the
big collisions. There could be a dynamic play on any given play. And I guess you could say the same thing with soccer, but the reality is it's like 1-0. You score a goal in the World Cup and the game's over.
And it's over. I'm like, it's a score of 1.
So, it's just, frankly, I think Americans like offense. Defense wins championships, but Americans like offense, and there's basically no offense in soccer.
I think Americans like just continual like brute action. We want to see the big slam. We want to see the dunk. We want to see the big hit. I'm not a baseball fan. They say baseball is America's pastime. I would say pastime because I've never been able to get into it. I'm like, hey, I love to, if you go to a game, you see it. And I sat there in the new Tiger Stadium, sat there, watched the game, and was falling asleep with great tickets, and I just couldn't do it. So I don't think golf is a sport. I think golf is a leisure time activity. People call it a sport. I have no idea. Oh, because it's skill. Well, there's a lot of things that are skill that aren't sports. But I think it's a golf is a white man's way to stay relevant once he's old. And they've tricked some black men to think the same thing. So now you got Charles Barkley and everybody else thinking that they're still playing sports. No, Charles, that's why you're gaining a waist like the rest of us, because you're no longer playing a sport. Yvonne Daniels, stop trying to sell it, Kareem. I don't get it. But anyway, so it's happening. It's going to be over on. So the teams that are left, and now I have had an opportunity to see a little bit of each of these teams. So France and Morocco are playing today at 2:00, right? And then in the final game, I guess, or the next semifinal after that will be Argentina and Croatia on Sunday. And that's Sunday at 6 p.m. So you guys better be listening to this show instead of watching the game. That's what I'm going to say. Or do both at the same time. Yeah. What do you guys think is going to be the final? My outcome is I think that Argentina is going to prevail. France has been playing very strong, but I think they've been playing at a level that they cannot continue for 2 more games. I don't think it's going to happen. What do you guys think?
I have no clue, but I'm going to say France and Argentina because they're more traditional powers.
So you're saying France and Argentina?
Yeah.
And who's going to prevail?
Oh, I have no clue. It's a coin flip. I'll go with France.
Oh, okay, you'll take France.
Yeah,
I'm not a sports guy in general.
He's like, I don't even know
let alone
America,
let alone this soccer
America.
Stuff. So no idea, no interest, to be honest.
Yeah, to Yvonne Daniels she said that soccer players make a ton of money though. They sure do. I promise.
Sure they do.
Man, yep. I'm going to tell you, if it's like track on a green field, like Carl Lewis should have been a soccer player. You thought he made a lot of money running track. What would have happened if he'd have been on the soccer field? Just run around in circles and push people. I mean, it's what kids do when they're 5. And you make this ton of money with Cristiano. What's his name? Cristiano. What's the guy's name?
Cristiano, whatever.
Cristiano Ronaldo, whatever. He's leaving from playing with Manchester United, I think it is, they're separating, and he now has broken another. I think it's crazy. But anyways, we're going to move right along. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this story. You guys remember, is it Bernie Madoff from the 90s, the Enron scandal? John is sitting here shaking his head because he's probably not old enough to remember this, Mark. So we're dating ourselves. But the new guy, Samuel Bankman-Fried, he has been taken into custody by the Bahamian police or the folks in the Bahamas. They found him over there. Which are any of us surprised? I think that's kind of where everybody thought he might be hanging out these days after.
Their headquarters, I think, were there. Something was there. So yeah,
of course they are, because we have those offshore accounts and those Swiss bank accounts and those other things to stop people from tracking what we're doing, especially when we're running one of the world's biggest Ponzi schemes, which they are now saying. But he was found once worth $26 billion. What was the name of his company? FTX. Yeah. So those of you who are out there, and this is what I had been saying for a long time, those who are dealing with cryptocurrency, you're basically putting money in, and you're in exchange for a binary code, and there's no regulation, no control, and consequentially, people can run off with $26 billion to other places. They are extraditing him back. What do you think will be his fate, Mark?
He's going to jail, man.
So what happens to the money? Will they ever recoup any of the money, or is he just going to go?
It was all
bury it in the ground.
A lot of it was paper money. It was paper money. It was not. I mean, not paper money. It was just on paper in a sense of like not hard currency. So the value of his company has deflated so much; it's in essence worthless now. But so he never had $26 billion of cash in a bank somewhere.
No. I get that, but there's a ton of money that's associated with that binary code.
It's all gone.
Do you really think it's all gone, or where did it go, Mark?
I don't know. You're gonna have to get a forensic account.
I don't know. As he's checking his bank account.
Mark, are you trying to tell us something, Mark? What's going on, buddy? It's white collar crimes that's happening out here.
They're gonna make an example of him. I think he's gonna go away for a long time.
He should. Yeah. I think this is sad. But okay, now I want to talk about something. I think this is so cool. And Trevor Noah, who I did not know who the guy was before the Daily Show, until he came on. He replaced, was it Jon Stewart? That was on the. They've been doing
someone in between the two. I don't remember. I'm not a huge fan of Trevor Noah.
I think he replaced Jon Stewart. I didn't know who he was, but I'm going to tell you, I thought he was really funny. He's kind of a tiny.
I didn't think he was funny at all, so I didn't get him. So, but
you know what I thought was funny was that he was kind of like a modern version of like a softer modern version of what's the guy's name? Eddie Murphy. And I say that in the fact that Eddie Murphy spent a lot of money and became a rich black man by talking about white people. And Trevor Noah, in a very tongue-in-cheek way, has been he would talk about issues that were relevant, but he would be very direct in his comedy and making light of things that white America does. And I thought that he was just kind of funny in some sense of that nature. But that's not why we're talking about him. We're talking about him because Trevor Noah did something that I think is absolutely, like, he is the man etched in my mind. I think that as a black man coming into the space following Jon Stewart. It was Jon Stewart. There was someone else that was there.
I thought there was somebody in between Jon Stewart and him for sure, but
yeah. And so where is Jimmy Kimmel? What is he?
Was at his own show, right?
All right. So yeah. Is it Jon Stewart?
It's Jon Stewart.
All right. So he comes in after Jon Stewart. He's been there, I think, 6-7 years. And what is, I would tune in sometimes because I just thought he was funny how he made fun of culture and different things of that nature. I remember seeing one episode when he was talking about how people were mad at Lizzo because she had a song, and one of the songs had a word in it that the people from another country, it was a word that was a derogatory term. And so she went back, changed the lyrics, and people were like, "Oh, it's not good enough." He's like, "Well, what do you want her to do? What, isn't the whole thing, this?" He was talking about cancel culture. Isn't the whole thing that when you mess up, you get educated, and then you come back, you apologize, and you do something different? And so that was really one of the times that I listened to him. But he did something on his final show when he was signing off, 7 years in the making. And I'm going to read the quotes that he said because he gave a powerful shout out to black women. He says he always tells people that if you truly want to learn about America, talk to black women. Then he goes on to say, yeah, because unlike everybody else, black women can't afford to the F word around and find out. Black people understand how hard it is when things go bad, especially in black America. And he continues, I'll tell you now, do yourself a favor. If you truly want to know what to do or how to do it, or maybe the best way or most equitable way. Talk to Black women, he continued. They're a lot of the reason that I'm here. And he just, it was an amazing shout out to the strength and the power and the influence. And then he went on to name all of the different African American women, director, producers, writers that have really influenced his life. First time that I've ever seen anyone sign off like that. What are your thoughts about that? And then I'll share why I think it's so important to me.
Well, as I said, I'm not a huge fan of Trevor Noah, but I always admire people who are willing to be, really authentic in a moment like that. So I admire and applaud his willingness to be really vulnerable and authentic and express his thanks to a group of people that preceded him. So I thought it was great.
What about you?
That's
John B.
I can't say I'm a fan of his, but I respect what he does. And yeah, I think it's a similar thing where it's like it's a humility thing, because you can thank, oh, I got this award and I thank this and I achieved this during my time here. But no, being able to go back and say these are the people who influenced me and allowed me to get here. I want to thank those people. I think that's a big thing to do.
All right, I think it's great. Thank you, Yvonne Danes. Yes, loved every minute of it. Much respect. I'm going to tell you, I was really, really blown out of the water. It was truly appreciated. And this is why I loved this segment, because so much of what he said had so much strong truth behind it. When things go bad in the world, I said something to someone the other day that I thought was really interesting. And this is about women in general. So this is a shout out to women, and then we're going to get back to Trevor Noah's tribute to Black women. During the entire time of COVID, the Spanish fever, Spanish flu, any disease, anything that has ever hit the world, men, I can't take pain. I mean, I'm a wimp when it comes to pain and sickness, and I turn into a big baby. But when you think about the role that women play in caring for children, there can be a disease that wipes you out if you inhale it, such as COVID was for a lot of people. But mothers did not cease to go into their sick children's room and to lay with their sick children and to take care of their sick children and to do all of these things. And oftentimes we see that women they don't have the ability to take a day off, so to speak. And so they often find themselves working overtime and doing things of that nature. And I think that it's remarkable. Now, on to Black women. When I think about the atrocities that have occurred in the world, we often think about the Martin Luther Kings and the Chavezes and all of the great names, Jesse Jackson and all of these other individuals. But there were Black women that were the backbone of what was taking place in the civil rights movement. When those men were coming home feeling dejected, when they were coming home after being arrested, or when they were away, doing what they were doing, there were Black women that were, mending and holding the pieces of that struggle together, holding families together, holding people together. And as I look at who I have become over the course of the years, yes, there have been some influential Black men that have been a part of my understanding what it meant to be a man. But it was those Black women who were right there, who were helping me lick wounds, who were encouraging me, who were giving me strength and empowering me, understanding that they may never step into the light that I was destined to step into, but giving me every sense the platform to be able to catapult myself into another level. So I think in Trevor Noah fashion, I want to thank all of those women out there who are doing great things. I specifically want to thank you, Black women, who have been kissed by the sun and who have a heart and a love that never seems to end. God bless you all. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with more United Shades of Grey.
You're listening to United Shades of Gray on WSGW.
This is Kareem, and we're back with more United Shades of Gray, conversations of race in America. Well, we are here in the studio, the three of us, the three amigos. We are here today, just weeks before this new, this Christmas holiday. It's not even weeks. It's what, 12 days?
Well, by Sunday, it'll be week.
All right. Okay. Before we get into today's discussion, I, as a kid growing up, I hated having Christmas on Sunday. John, what is your thoughts, and what are you guys doing for Christmas Mass on Sunday? Because I know Catholics, they go to church. I don't care. They're going to.
I like it on Sunday because then I don't have to go to. I shouldn't say this, Father. Don't be listening. I don't have to go to Mass on Friday and then again on Sunday. So
What about you, John?
I'm a pastor's kid, so our Christmases are affected no matter what. But yeah, we've got 2 services Christmas Eve and then 2 services Christmas Day. And it's one of those, we go to every single one. And
wow.
We open presents. And sometimes during that time, Dad falls asleep.
So let me ask you,
does he, out of curiosity, Jonathan, does he give the same sermon at every one of those 4?
No, it is a different sermon.
Wow.
My man. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. All right. So let me ask this question. So for New Year's Eve, do you guys do like the New Year's Eve service?
No, we don't. We're thinking about doing something this year for the church, but normally it's just to get together with friends.
Mark, did you see that Father?
I do, Mother Walker. You're right. I should be ashamed of myself, but
All right. Well, this year, normally we do like what is called a watch night service. And we talked about what watch night service is. Do you guys remember? This was a piece of history.
No.
Okay. When they were waiting for the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation by President Abe, they were waiting for January 1st to strike because it was supposed to be written. So many of those Black activists and individuals, all Black folks, were sitting in a church waiting for it to be, the next day, January 1st, to come. And they prayed all night long in anticipation of this. And so this became a Black folk church thing where we had watch night service. And it was really just staying together, praying that New Year in, waiting and anticipating, watching for when the president would sign into the Emancipation Proclamation, setting people free. And so it became a part of Black religious culture. It's something that I have done every single year of my life that I can remember. And for the first time this year, we are breaking with that tradition. We're not having a watch night service because watch night would be on Friday night. And then what would you do? Just stay up all night and have church on Sunday morning? Not working. So we're going to have a New Year's Day service. But we're not doing watch night for the first time ever. And I'm not really sure how to feel about that. But it's just a little bit of history that I thought I would share, and I thought it would be interesting for you guys. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about finding purpose. And the reason we're doing that is because at the ending of every year, everyone's thinking about what they're going to do differently this next year. And it's during this period of time that I always get asked this question: how do I find my purpose in life? Why am I here? I want a life of purpose. And so I want to talk a little bit about living a purposeful life. And I'll say that because I think there's a difference between finding my purpose and finding purpose in living. So Mark, you're a guy, and we've had conversations about these types of things, and being I'll say a big CEO, and doing what you're
retired old man now. Come on.
This is a year now, right, Mark, for you?
It's a year. Well, yeah, January 1st will be a year.
Okay, so I remember the conversations that we were having, and many times, as folks do in life, their job is where they find their sense of meaning, belonging, and purpose.
Yep.
And I remember the conversations we were having as you had made the decision to do a transition. Like, why am I here? Like, what do I do next? Where am I going to find purpose as I move forward? So why don't you share, Mark, when you talk about purpose, how have you been able to navigate the storm to go from one sense of purpose where your job was the thing that gave you purpose or a sense of purpose,
right,
to now finding purpose for living in a different place?
Yeah, I mean, so when I ultimately my purpose, I think, emanates from kind of a religious or spiritual context. I feel like God has blessed me with a lot of gifts, and then it's kind of, and that I need to do something positive in society with those gifts to make a difference. And what I've learned about myself, and I think this is what purpose is all about, when I'm like focused on other people and making a difference in other people's lives, frankly, I'm more at peace and happier than when I'm focused on trying to elevate myself, which has usually led to a lot of hard times, frankly. And when I was working at Hemlock or at Dow before that, in the job of a business leader, I had a very clear purpose in my mind, which was to create an exceptional company, an exceptional business, an exceptional organization. And by exceptional, it really had two meanings. It had kind of the worldly meaning, one that delivered exceptional financial results, because without that, the business ceases to exist and I no longer have a platform to lead. But the real purpose was to try to create a culture in which the company, people felt like it was a bit of a family, where like, they were happy, they weren't miserable going into work every day. They felt like they were coming into a place where they were valued, they were making a difference, and that they can grow and develop. And that was ultimately my true purpose in that. And as I did that for a lot of years, I basically kind of got to a point where it was like, okay, I've been here, I've done this, I'm making a difference, in the 1,200 people that work at Hemlock. I'm making some difference, and hopefully anyway, in the community of Saginaw. But is there a different? I wanted to spend more time. When you have those kind of jobs, there's a sacrifice your family makes, and you don't have the same amount of time that maybe you'd like them to have. So I made a decision to step away from that with the idea of I really wanted to work on strengthening and changing my relationships with my wife, my family, and God. And then to figure out, is there a way I can leverage my skills in a broader sense in the community to make a bigger impact in the community? And that's been I'm still going on that journey. It's been on a journey for the last year. It's why one of the reasons I wanted to do this radio show. It's why I've gotten involved in the Catholic education in the Diocese of Saginaw.
Mark, I think it's important. You with everything that you said, the takeaway that I'm taking from that is to understand for those who are listening is that we look for a purpose. This is my purpose, and it becomes this ironclad thing that we were meant to do forever. But just as we evolve as people, our purpose for living and our purpose in living also evolves with us. And listening to what you said is so powerful, because we've got to understand that as we evolve as individuals, so does that purposeful part of who we are. John, you're a young guy. When I think about purposeful living, I'm always inspired by what young people think, and you're a person who I kind of like the way you think just a little bit. So when you think about purposeful living and living life in purpose, do you think that you found that space?
No. I think that I'm on my way to it. You said that the end of the year is a time where a lot of people are reflecting, and I've found myself reflecting a lot. If you would ask me a year ago, it would be, well, I want to pursue this job more. And I've done that, and I've kind of found a nice place, and we're building something. And I'm building something here at the radio station. I'm having a whole lot of fun.
There's a conspiracy. He's building something.
He's a coup. It's a coup. He's planning a coup.
Don't tell Mark. But no, it's kind of one of those, okay, I am a young guy. I'm going to be turning 25 in the new year. I want to build a family. I want to find someone that I can spend the rest of my life with. And I've worked with kids before. I really liked working with kids, and I want some kids of my own. And it's kind of one of those, that's where I find purpose driving me at this point.
It's interesting because, one of the fears that I had, and with you coming in, John, was as a young man, I did not want you to get stuck in this space and think that this space was the end all be all for everything that you're going to do in your life. So it does me well to understand that you see that there is life that is greater. I think that this place is going to be great in terms of giving you an acumen that maybe you didn't possess before. Sorry, the powers that be, but his talent is much bigger than what we can really corral here in this space. So don't shoot the messenger. But as you begin to think about purpose and living purposefully, and you're understanding the importance of a family being connected to that purpose, how do you foresee you moving forward in life, embracing what you do now, which has purpose, and incorporating the idea, the concepts of love and children and those things? How do you think that you begin to take that whole process on?
I have no idea. I've never really I've never understood the dating game. I think it's pointless. And this comes from like the position of faith that I hold, which is basically,
so you're gonna have an arranged marriage?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I mean the game. You know what I mean by that.
Go ahead.
The games that young people play, and it's all about being independent and go out and do whatever you want. I don't like that. I don't want to be with someone who likes that. So it's kind of tough to find how to move forward in that space.
I would think you can find people like in places where people are like-minded people, like your dad's church or.
Mark, I'm with Jonathan on that, and I think that I spend a great deal of time around a lot of great people, and I think that does purpose. Let me ask this question: does purpose ever? Can you be so purposeful and passionate about the things that you do that there is no space? This is a good question. That there is no space for relationships and love because you are in pursuit of purpose.
I think you've made a mistake if you allow that to happen.
I think you call that ambition.
Yeah. I think I think that's a great way of putting it, Jonathan. You've put ambition in front of, I'm thinking of a purpose. And again, I'm putting it in my world of like, I'm so singularly focused on being a great business leader that I ignore my wife and my kids and my friends, and that's to me not purposeful. That's something else.
Well, no. I'm not talking about once you have them. Come on, because they're not only something that are a part of your purpose, they become a part of your purpose, but they also become a very key piece of your responsibilities. So I'm not talking about once you get them.
Okay.
But I'm looking at like what John was saying, because John, you're 25?
24.
Yep. Soon to be 25. 25 when?
April.
Okay. So looking at John at the start of his career, I mean, that's kind of where I was. And I think about at that point in life, there was so much purpose that was being revealed in so many areas of my life. And my desire was to live life purposely. I'll tell you, my greatest fear in life, and I say this all the time, is to die and not be empty. Like that is a real concern of mine. I want to make sure that when I die on E. And that means that the things that inspire me, the things that make me feel fulfilled in life, all of those things that they are out there. I've gotten them all out of me. And sometimes I think, and Mark, you said something, it can be an error. I think that sometimes we are so attached to living life with purpose that we sometimes forget that there are other elements of purpose that we can overlook, that we then later down the road say, hey, you know what? I probably should have taken some time in this and fulfilled these areas of life. And so that was what I was saying in terms of your situation, John.
I was different than you, Kareem, Jonathan. For a young guy, I didn't have a lot of purpose. I was just kind of meandering through. I was a smart guy. I went to Notre Dame. I was a chemical engineer simply because someone told me I should be a chemical engineer. I had no passion for it, really. I wanted to get married and have a family. And, I met Mary, and that, we basically hit it off. But beyond that, it wasn't clear. I had no clear purpose or mission in life. It kind of came to me as I went through life. And I'm a big believer in you can't plan life out, even 5 years. Every 5-year plan I had blew up, and I went in a totally different direction. and frankly, a better direction than my original 5-year plan. And I'm a big believer in like, be open to different things and trust your gut instincts, trust what your heart is telling you to do. And don't be afraid to step outside of your box. Don't be afraid to go like in a totally different direction, even though everyone around you says you shouldn't. If that's what you think you should do, do it.
At the same time, as you're saying that, I agree as you're saying that, but I think that you do need to set your sights on something. I think that
Sure.
that is extremely important, is to be moving towards something, because I've been in a place where I wasn't moving towards anything and it felt horrible. And it's one of those, you need to
have some sort of aspiration of something.
Exactly.
I agree.
But
I
Mark,
agree.
I want to agree. I want to speak to something that you said, and I think there's going to be a lot of people out there who are listening who are going to be able, who it's going to resonate with. I, like you, when I look at my how my life has evolved, not one of my 5-year plans has ever turned out the way that I set it out to do. It absolutely has not happened. However, and to your point, Jonathan, it's the incremental planning. It's the incremental stages. It's the 1 year. At the end of this year, this is what I want to do. And I remember Oprah saying something, that the purpose of us having these targets or these goals is that we make sure that everything that we say, everything that we do, every investment that we make ourselves in terms of our thought, our ideas, our emotions, when we set these targets up, when we say, hey, I'm going to have, this is my vision board for this year, this is my goal for this year, this is my target. In that space, we then focus our attention, our energies, and we push everything to fulfill that particular thing. And we find the ability to achieve goals in the short term. But in that process, there is a purpose that sometimes unveils itself in a way that we didn't imagine. And that purpose will sometimes steer a different direction than a 5-year goal or a 5-year plan would ever put in place. What were you going to say, John?
I'm nodding along. That's been my very limited experience, but that's been my experience in life as well.
So, Mark, if someone were to ask you a question, look, I am really looking to see and to pursue and to find what my purpose is. I have great, experiences, I have a great job, family, but I don't feel like I'm living life on purpose or with purpose. What would you share with them?
Wow. It's something they can only answer themselves, obviously. And it takes time and introspection. And so I would say, don't focus on it too much. A lot of times when I'm thinking about stuff like that, it's kind of running around in the back of my head, but I'm not singularly focused on it. And over time, it unveils itself to you, and it becomes clearer and clearer with time. And so that's what I'd say is, don't panic, don't be in a rush. Just keep it kind of running around in the back of your mind, and let it keep stewing and look for insights. If you're a religious person, prayer, I think, helps you do that, to look for insights. So if you're a religious person, praying, I think, also helps. But it's just something that, this isn't great advice, but it has to come to you over time as you kind of think about it, ruminate on it, etc.
Mark, one of the things I think that I want to make a clear distinction on is that a lot of times people they confuse living purposefully with being fulfilled in my living. And I think even though purpose will give you a sense of fulfillment, I think there's a lot of things that we can do that give us fulfillment in spaces in our lives, and they give us a sense of accomplishment, but they may not necessarily be the things that that we are fully purposeful in terms of what we do. And I thought about this because when I think of it, I was having a conversation with my mom, Mark, and she said, I'm thinking about going back to school. And I'm thinking to myself, like, Mom, why are you want to go back to school? Like, come on, you've lived life, you got grown kids, hey, be happy, retire, be young. But she was like, no, I really want to go back. I'm thinking about going back to school. And I said, what's your purpose for going back to school? Are you just going to go back to school so you can say, hey, I got this degree? But what she was asking me, now that I'm having this conversation with you guys, is my purpose as a parent has kind of come full circle. I don't have little kids anymore, so I'm looking for a place where I can continue living in purpose and derive in that purpose a nuisance and a meaningful life that doesn't always center around my adult children.
Right.
And I think that there's a lot of people out there. Were you going to say something, John? I think there's a lot of people out there that fall into that space. You know, now that I'm older and now that I've done X, Y, Z, I'm retired. I fulfilled my purpose. I know someone told me that once. I fulfilled my purpose. I retired. I worked my 20 years. Well, your purpose is not your job. And oftentimes your job is not your purpose. But you have to have a meaning for living, something that causes you to stay up late. I always tell people this.
I think it keeps you young and it keeps you alive. I mean, I've seen a lot of people, they retire, they have nothing. And it's amazing to me how quickly they deteriorate. There's
Absolutely.
other people that are engaged. They take care of themselves physically. They're engaged in things that they find interesting and keeps them mentally aware. I mean, you know, I see guys at the gym, they're like 90 and I'm like, oh man, I hope I'm looking that good when I'm 90. So
yeah.
But the interesting thing is I'll be 62 next week while we're recording this show. It's literally my birthday that day.
On
and
Wednesday.
I worked, 31 years. But if I lived to 90, there's another 30 years for me to make a difference somehow. And so, yeah, I 100% align with you of like, just because you quote unquote retire doesn't mean I don't think you should just check out. So,
but Mark, I think that you've made the you've said it. And I think that you recognize that in this next phase of your life, purpose looks like mentorship.
Yep.
Purpose looks like, challenging individuals to have these courageous conversations and doing your part in challenging races to come together for a greater purpose. Yep. And so I think that you have an understanding of where your new sense of purpose is leading you. All right. So I want to give out some quick tips for those who are listening in our last couple of minutes. Some tips that I put together on finding purpose. One of those things we've talked about, Mark, you talked about, you said giving back. I think it's important that as you begin to give back and you become a philanthropist or you become a volunteer, there are ways and spaces that will cause your mind to figure out how can I do something more to help other individuals. When the focus is removed from yourself to how can I help the greater good, you'll find a sense of compassion and livelihood and life that often drives you to a sense of purpose. Also, I want to talk to you about developing a growth mindset. And I'm simply saying having a growth mindset is linked to having a sense of purpose. When you're continually think about how do I help something to grow, it challenges you always to keep a positive mindset. And as you think growth means that I have to figure out how can I nurture, how can I sustain, how can I help to remove barriers from the thing that I'm trying to help with. Thirdly, practice gratitude. I'm going to tell you, when you're thankful for where you are and you're thankful for what you have, purpose is in alignment with those things. And then the next thing I'm going to say is be a part of some community. When you get into a place where you're communing and connecting with people, you begin to hear strengths, weaknesses, necessities, needs, and you'll find yourself being able to be a gap filler and fill those gaps. Mark, real quick, say so long to everyone that's out there. And I know you got to run because you got a meeting in place.
Yeah, until next week. We'll be celebrating my birthday next week. I should bring in a cake or something, or cupcakes.
Cake and pie and ice cream. All right, it is a thing. We certainly want to thank you guys. An hour just goes by so fast. But as you guys are preparing to get to the ending of this year, I know we got a holiday right ahead of us. I want you guys to be thinking about how can I begin to live a more purposeful and meaningful life. This is Kareem signing off with United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America. God bless you all and happy holidays.